Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the Rates and Lanes podcast. I am your host, Rico Muhammad. That handsome fellow next to me, that's our good friend and co-host, Chuck Snow. This is the Rates and Lanes podcast. We want to thank you guys for tuning in. If you would do us a huge favor before we get started, please make sure that you like, share, and subscribe to the show. It helps us out tremendously, gets us into a broader algorithm for the YouTube, Facebook, and Instagram folks out there. So if you could do that for us, we greatly appreciate it. And man, we are coming on the heels of Road Check 2026. That kind of wrapped up last week. And we are experiencing, we're also coming off of still kind of getting reactionary information in off of the ruling for the Montgomery case from the Supreme Court. And kind of like we were talking about last week, I don't think that the sky is falling, but it's definitely making some folks have to make sure that we're on our P's and Q's and dotting our I's and crossing our T's, so to speak. Chuck, good evening. How are you?
We're doing great, Rico. It's going to be a good show today. I'm looking forward to it. There's certainly lots to talk about, like always.
Absolutely, absolutely. And so coming back off of Road Check, we have some pretty astounding numbers that are coming in. Day two of Road Check is saying that that we had a 32% out of service rate. That is
That's embarrassing. You know what? Maybe we better go back to horse and wagons or train.
Did I send you the video, Chuck, of the one where the guy had the disc brakes and only
Yes.
one caliper? I was like, oh,
I saw that. So the excuse there will be, well, I couldn't really check them. That will be the excuse.
I don't know how.
I know, but that will be the excuse before they haul them off to jail.
That was really scary. I mean, it was a box truck. It wasn't a. I don't think that it was a.
Disc brake's a disc brake. It doesn't matter.
True,
You know.
true indeed, true indeed.
Yeah.
Not trying to justify it, but man, I mean, this. So if there's a little video floating around on X, if you guys are out there, of DOT doing an inspection on a box truck, and he had disc brakes all the way around, and out of I think it was out of eight caliper mounting bolts, there was only one on the truck.
How do you like driving with no brakes? But you know, there's a misconception with disc brakes. So you don't have to check them. There's
Oh
nothing
no.
to check. I know, but that is the misconception. It's out there because I've heard guys say it. I love these. I don't have to check them. I go, huh? What do you mean you don't have to check them?
No. As a matter of fact, I just had brakes put on my truck. I still have drums on my truck, on my tractor.
Oh, did?
But it was time to have drums and shoes replaced on the front axle. They were getting a little close to the line, so we went ahead and just replaced both of them over the weekend. Kind of had a little bit of work done over the weekend. Had some torsion boards, replaced all the shocks, which I tell you, shocks is one of the things that I don't think anybody replaces enough.
No, they're taking you know what? Shocks take one hell of a beating. I don't think the average truck owner sometimes realizes the beating their shocks get because they're sitting on an air ride seat with air ride suspension and everything else. But those shocks are just getting, especially with the roads, and I don't know how they are down in Atlanta, Florida, where you're running these days, but they're pretty rough out here.
Well, I think that lifespan on a pair of shocks is about 50 to 60,000 miles. And so a lot of times with the standard shocks, with your Monroe, your Gabriels, or
Right.
whatever, I don't know about, they definitely have some of those higher priced and a little bit more
Long lasting,
better,
yeah.
long lasting, better made shocks that may cost you a little bit more money. But shocks is one of those things that, like I say, I don't think that most truckers don't that have them. I don't think they get replaced nearly often enough. I know I'm guilty of it. And I was walking around and I was looking and I was like, you know what? Shocks on, and what caught my eye was the local dealership had shocks on sale. So I was like, let me go ahead and get all while we got the truck in the shop doing some stuff. Let's go ahead and do all of them.
And your dealership was working all weekend?
Well, actually, the dealership had them on sale. They weren't working on the weekend.
Okay.
I got them on. I think I picked those up on Saturday.
Right.
But I have an independent guy that was working over the weekend. He worked over the weekend, so got all that stuff knocked out, and we ready to roll, ready to get back on the road here.
And it feels really good when you know you've fixed everything on the truck. It's just a nice feeling.
Oh yeah, oh yeah.
It's really, like, let them pull me over. I don't care. I got everything fixed by a good mechanic.
Yeah, and if we find something, of course, at the end of the day, it's all about safety, and we want to try to make sure that we're, like I said, more and more people need to be making sure that they're trying to dot their I's and cross their T's. I think that a lot of, and it's time out. And once again, I'm not sure if you caught that story either, Chuck. They several more ELD companies got disqualified from FMCSA. They disqualified them as well, and so we're running it. I think they added 12 more to the block list, and I think that list is getting ever so closely to about 100 people being on the block list.
You know what? Let's get rid of all the garbage at the same time. And we can't, like, as soon as there was talk of ELDs, a bunch of us said, well, they'll figure a way. People will figure a way to get through the back door, which they did.
Didn't take them long at all. Didn't
Well,
take them.
do you remember, like, with the radar detectors? Every time I knew the guy that actually invented the fuzzbuster, and and every time the cops would figure out a way to tell if the car had a fuzzbuster or a truck had a fuzzbuster, the fuzzbuster companies would figure a way to get better, and it was a cat and mouse game. And I think this is the same thing.
Yeah, they would make the like you say, the company that would made the one for the cops and the police just went around, turned right back around and made the go around for the general public, and they kind of played that cat and mouse game and that dog and pony show for a couple of years.
Yeah, exactly.
And so the other thing is that we have noticed that spot market rates have hit records. We're back above COVID levels. I think we set some records last month as far as drive-in spot market rates. We hit an all-time high. So let's just get into this really quickly.
Yeah, I'd love to.
So we'll start out with the national fuel prices. Current fuel prices, it dropped by ever so slightly, but we're sitting at an average of $5.60 per gallon for the week. Still very, very elevated. But hopefully everyone out there has some type of fuel card that they are using to get some type of a discount, and hopefully that is helping ease some of the burden and some of the pain. Jumping over here into the national spot market rates. As we can see, spot market rates have jumped for all three equipment types, and it is elevated, and we are having record movement when it comes to those. So dry vans is showing. I think dry van is checking in at an average of 285. Is what we're showing here.
It's pretty darn good.
285 per mile for dry vans nationally. This is the line haul rate with fuel surcharge included on the spot market. That 285 is 6 cents higher than it was from the previous week.
Wow.
Flatbeds hit a $3.64 per mile on average. That is 4 cents higher from the previous week. And reefers, we are at that $3.33 mark, which is 7 cents higher than it was from the previous week. These are all the spot market rates coming in from DAT. And
now, these were taken during the Blitz week, correct?
Yes.
Okay. So it'll be really interesting, Rico, to see how the market reacts next week, what it reports for this week. because that's the real telltale when everybody's back working.
You know what, Chuck? I'm trying to make sure that I'm telling you correctly, but I believe. Let's hold on one second. Let's see here. No, this was actually last week. Those were at last week's numbers.
Wow, this is phenomenal.
That's last week's numbers,
You
and that's
know,
that's what I'm saying. We people thought that since Blitz Week, because Blitz Week was the previous week before that,
right.
that the rates would come back down. But it's not a since we are at a spot where we have not only is there contraction with the availability of trucks, but there's also this thing is being driven by the shipping demand. There is a lot of shipping demand that is still pent up, and they cannot find trucks. I am anecdotally just that I can report on is I'm constantly. This reminds me of I'm going to say when I very first got started. I remember, back when we were doing the CMCs and stuff like
Right.
that, and we were having the talks about how to use the DAT load boards and
Right.
kind of giving strategies on that type of stuff. This reminds me of those times because now more than ever, for the longest time I had direct customer and I really didn't work the spot market all that much. And so I was kind of, had one foot in, one foot out. But when I had to go back to the spot market to kind of generate more income, it was strange because I would post my truck and I never would get phone calls. And I was like, man, what is going on? Now it's back to you can post your truck if you're in a hot market, you can post your truck, and I don't care 2-3 hours after you deleted the truck, you're still getting phone calls asking, hey, I don't see the truck anymore, but do you still have that truck available?
People are desperate. Yeah.
People are desperate, and this is one of those situations to where and I got a story to tell too I want to follow up on, but this is one of those situations where people are desperate. We got to make sure that we are, um, you know, make sure that we are not putting ourselves in a conundrum by not servicing our customers as we properly should, and make sure that they're getting what they deserve. But at the same time, we got to make sure that we are doing our part when it comes to giving good service, because the rates are going up. But at the end of the day, you might be able to get somebody once or twice, but if you're not delivering good service, now more so than ever, I think that you got to make sure that you're doing what you can do on your end to make sure that you're providing excellent service.
100%. And I think everybody really has to pay a really close attention to safety right now.
And I was saying that to say this is another opportunity. I had a situation over on Friday. I said, man, I'm wrapping up for the week. I'm gonna get one more load in real quickly. I got a load, uh, got a really good rate for a load. Picked up a load in south of the city of Atlanta, delivered to the north side of Atlanta. It's about 60 miles on the load.
Right.
Got negotiated for the load. Got the load for $1,200. Nice little rate for I thought wasn't gonna be much work. Ended up I picked the load up on Friday evening. It was supposed to deliver Saturday morning.
Right.
And this is the key indicator of spot market freight. I got to the delivery about 8:30 to check in. I supposed to have a 9 o'clock appointment.
Right.
Security was a little cantankerous with me. Say, no, you're 5 days too early. Somehow or another, the appointment time got mixed up.
Right.
So it ended up turning into I didn't get out of that place until Saturday morning around 2 a.m.
Oof.
So I'm there from 8:30 a.m. till 8:30 a.m. on Saturday morning. Oh, let me correct that. No. I got there Friday morning. I picked it up on Thursday. Supposed to deliver Friday. I didn't get out there till Saturday morning. Yeah.
Right.
So, but yeah. Now I'm still going to have to deal with, because of course by the time I got empty, no one was available for me to wrap up the detention piece that detention layover piece that we're owed. But then I said, let me go back and make sure I'm reading through this contract, and part of the master contract, and this is the thing that we all have to be mindful of, especially now with the highway setup packages, the RMISs, the my carrier portal, my carrier package, and all that type of stuff. So you'll have your rate confirmations, but you'll also have your master contract.
Right.
And one of the things that I said that I need to, going forward, I need to make sure that I have this on the rate confirmation, because at the end of the day, that's the one that we're always going to be dealing with. And Chuck, I want you to kind of, advise, give us a little bit of advice on this as you go. But I noticed that in that master contract that they had a clause on detention and layover that was not attached to the rate confirmation, but by default, you would have to, if you took the load, you agreed to their um, their layover in detention pay rates. And so going forward, I said that I need to make sure that when I'm talking and I'm booking loads on the spot market going forward, I need to make sure that that specifically layover and detention is spelled out on that rate confirmation, so that it can supersede that
The master contract.
master contract that I don't see, that you don't necessarily see all of the verbiage on when you're dealing with a rate confirmation.
100%. Because that's the one that counts. That's the one you're going to be dealing with.
Is the rate confirmation.
That's right.
And by default, and if you don't have it by default on the rate confirmation, it defaults back over to the master contract.
Yeah, and that's how I think some of the carriers are getting into trouble sometimes.
Yes, because for something like that, I think that the antiquated. I think it's very, very, very antiquated when for you to be held at a shipper or wherever you're held at with power or driver, and they're trying to cap that expense at $200 to $250, $300. I think that's absolutely crazy. Really, when you look at it, when you break it down, most average operations for a reefer, and this is running fairly slim on my end, I think. But my average daily cost of operation is going to be somewhere in the ballpark of about $600.
Minimum. First of all, you're running a reefer. How much fuel does your reefer use per hour?
I can't remember the exact amount, but and that's a crazy thing that keeps funny. You mentioned that, Chuck. I was headed up to that place, and normally I've delivered to the warehouse where I was delivering to before, and they normally don't take that long. And I was on about a quarter of a tank of reefer fuel, and something just said, "Go ahead and fill up before you go in there. Just go ahead and fill up."
It's called 6 cents, Rico. No, it's true. It's true.
And thank goodness I did, because if I hadn't, as long as I was there and it was a frozen load, I would have definitely ran out of fuel.
Yeah.
I would have definitely ran out of fuel on the reefer. But that's just I put that out there. A lot of times people like to share. When they're sharing things, they like to share all their wins and not necessarily their losses. And I like to try to have a little bit of transparency and for everybody to see that, sometimes, even though we're out here and we're kind of putting ourselves out front, that doesn't necessarily mean we know it all, and we still make mistakes even after years of being in the business.
100%. And the mistakes aren't necessarily yours. It's somebody you're dealing with that's not being honest. And then when they get caught, or maybe they're just incompetent, or their information is competent, isn't correct, and then it comes back on you. And I got to tell you, my personal thing is I hate the spot market because it's full of these cracks that you fall into, and that's the danger of it. And we've said it all along, and people are forgetting. We said during the darkest days, even on the brightest days. Watch the spot market. It's fickle. Okay, it's tempting because it's the low hanging fruit that is so ripe and delicious, but you got to go higher up in the tree, and that's where having these relationships with steady brokers, steady lanes, it solves so many problems. Look how many problems you run into all the time. Every time I talk to you and you've had a problem, 99.9% of the time, it's always spot market.
Yep.
Yeah, pays more, but look at the aggravation you go through.
Yep. And that's what a lot of times I was talking with a gentleman because I had someone call me, someone that I actually dealt with before, and he was in a bind. He needed someone to pick up some freight, and I was stuck on the load that I was just talking about.
Yeah.
And I tried to call a couple of my friends around town to see if anybody might be available. And that was kind of, one of the guys that I called, he's an older gentleman, and he doesn't really, he kind of works when he wants to work. He has a little bit of a mailbox money coming in from the military and everything. So he so for him, he was like, man, I appreciate you calling and telling me about it, but it's not worth the aggravation. I'd rather, and so you running into that, and like I say, especially with capacity getting as tight as it is, I think that it has to be. We got to start making sure that we're balancing the scales, so to speak, on both ends. Um, and I think that's where, when we get to that point where we get kind of have that. Um, because the thing that really, I guess, gets me a little bit perturbed is that sometimes these people, the brokers or the agents that are sitting at home or sitting at work, I don't think they have a full appreciation and know how frustrating it is. And I don't think that they would appreciate being in that situation. And I don't see how you don't have empathy for the other side of the equation, for somebody
100%.
that's trying to service your customer, and they are being held there for that amount of time, and you think it's okay just to it's all well, you get what you signed up for,
Yeah.
and thinking that $300 or $400 is adequate compensation for something like that. It's
Well, you know what? I always equate it. Imagine if you hired a plumber to tear out a sink, and he said, "Rico, what can I charge you? I'll charge you $400. I'm going to tear out the sink and put in a new one. You buy the sink." And he comes in on Saturday morning. He's going to do an hour job of pulling out the old sink, putting in the new sink, and it ends up being 12 hours because he runs into a problem. Do
right.
you think he's going to charge you the same? There's no way.
Exactly.
And that's a plumber. You've got a lot more money in equipment than most plumbers do.
Exactly. But like I said before, and this is one of the things, one of my gripes is that this is probably one of the only industries where the service provider is dictated terms to. I don't know of any. I don't know of many other industries. I know of any industry where a service provider, like I say, if you go to a mechanic or anybody else, if there's something else that's added to the scope of work, there's going to be an extra charge, like you were
Well,
just
you know
saying.
what? This is where trucking and farming are identical because
Mm,
you don't get paid. When you run into problems doing something, nobody pays you the extra.
yeah.
And they're identical businesses. And the third one, of course, which I've mentioned before, are your white linen tablecloth restaurants, the independent ones. They run in, but they're a little different in the fact that what a steak is $50, take it or leave it. You buy the steak or you don't buy the steak.
Right.
You don't want a steak, just order a baked potato if that's all you can afford. But everybody thinks that farmers, truckers, and restaurateurs make all this money, and we're lucky to grind out 5%.
Yeah, yeah, and that's the other thing. I'm hearing, lots and lots of people are thinking, man, well, the rates are getting back up there. Maybe it might be worth my while to jump back in. And
That's what happens. And you know what? Everybody jumps back in now. If there is a barrier to entry, I'm okay with that because I think the market could afford to have more good carriers. But we need barriers to entry. Not having it so you can get a trucking license a hell of a lot easier. You can get a hunting license.
Yeah, I think that, and I think, like I said, this is one of those things where I think that the rates and everything are going to hold for longer. I think that one of the good things that has come from this um, FMCSA coming down with the kind of the enforcement arm and putting some more pieces in place as far as the barriers of entry and making things. This probably has been the most consequential of our lifetime.
Yes.
FMCSA from the director and the transportation secretary Duffy all the way down through that whole thing. I think they've probably been the most consequential of our lifetime, and I think that they are doing some good things. They are still a long ways for them to go. Like you say, there still needs to be, um, a lot of people, like if you have a conditional rating, it's kind of hard to get out of that box. But I know some people that have complained about trying to go and get, calling FMCSA and trying to get a safety rating, and they won't give them one. They
You, so
they
you
say
can.
they say they can't handle they can't handle if you call them, they kind of automatically figure that you're good, and that they're trying to find the ones that are not good, and they can't handle the incoming um, the influx of incoming people that are looking to get a safety score.
Well, because they haven't modernized that part of it yet. That's part of the issue. And my idea, and I don't know whether somebody is listening from our government, your government, but the easiest way to do it is if we did an annual desktop audit through consultants using, and they would check every single carrier out there once a year, and audit them. There's a fee of so much a truck, let's say $200, $300 a truck. And when you get into 5,000, 5,000 trucks or something, it's a little bit different. Then you have anything over that. Let's just say anything over 200 trucks, you actually send an inspector in.
Right.
But anything under, and use AI because there are tools in the AI tool belt to make sure that nobody's cheating as far as the consultants. And I think that we could have a really a vibrant, robust, and safe transportation network by doing this. Get rid of all the bad apples, make them either leave or pull up their socks.
Yep. Yep. And I think that the other thing is, like I said, um, I think that the rates, when it comes to rates, just kind of getting back on that horse, I think rates are going to remain where they are for the foreseeable future. I don't think we're going to see any decline in rates, especially. And I don't anticipate fuel actually getting a big discount on fuel anytime in the near future either.
No,
Um,
because even if the Trump administration works something out with Iran, we have a constriction within the fuel supply chain with the Strait of Hormuz. So it's going to take a couple months, anyways, until things start freeing up to any great degree, from what I read.
and we're running into peak shipping time. June is normally the peak shipping time
Yes.
for all modes of transportation. So, and that's the other reason why I don't think that there's going to be any relief in sight as far as, and I shouldn't say relief as in that term, but I don't think that I think we're going higher for longer.
Yeah, because I think there's probably people still leaving the business because they're having issues. Insurance is one of them. The insurance companies have been bleeding money for years, and nobody likes to pay the insurance. But I can tell you, the insurance companies they're losing money all over the place. How long are they going to do it for?
Yeah, and I'm not sure and that's going to be the other, that's the other kind of fly in the buttermilk, so to speak. The with the brokers now talking about the liability on the broker's part, how many brokers are they going to have to carry have to switch up their insurance carriers?
Oh, big.
And
And
what's
it's
that
really expensive.
going to do to the small broker?
Well, they're going to have to buy the insurance or get out of the business. They have no that they won't be able to afford it, especially the ones. There's a lot of your smaller brokers. A lot of them build their business up from being transactional.
Yeah,
That's where you get the one-offs because the big brokers, I can tell you, the C.H. Robinsons of the world, and even the company that we built, Traffics, it got to a point we didn't want transactional business. It's a pain in the butt, and the little guys would take that.
right.
And but I remember when I was starting, I would do anything for those transactional business deals.
And it's the other thing that's kind of funny about all of that too is that you know how is that really going to affect, like I say, the smaller broker? And so the insurance carriers, how are they going to price that for the brokers? That's going to be that's another question that is going to be very, very that they're talking about. There's this new highway bill that's supposed to be out there. I haven't had a chance to even get to the trucking aspect of it. It's over 1,000 pages.
Read it tonight, aren't you?
But they have some languages in there, from what I understand, about changing the minimum insurance for brokers, and of course that's another aspect that they're talking about for carriers, is changing the minimum insurance requirements. So all of this in conjunction, to me, just translates into higher rates.
100%. And you know what? The broker's insurance is going to go sky high, number one. And the other thing I can tell you about the insurance companies, having dealt with them for decades, and I did get to know how they worked. They're going to want to see what protocols the brokers have for vetting carriers.
Yeah, I think and I think that's going to be there's going to have to be some type of guidance that comes down, I would imagine, from FMCSA, since they're, like we talked about at the beginning, that there are very few small carriers, especially, that have any type of safety rating. I think
Rico,
that
I think if I'm not mistaken, it's around 6%
yeah,
have safety ratings. They're as scarce as hen's teeth.
and the smaller carriers, the small guys, the less than 10 trucks, that's what make up the bulk of the capacity in the industry.
Yeah, and and I know there's some concerns out there that the small carriers are going to be thrown out of business. That's not happening because you
No,
throw
I
the
don't think so.
small no, you throw the small carriers out of business, and you won't move 90% of your produce that comes out of the fields in America.
Yeah, I don't see that happening at all. And I think that's where, like I say, refrigerated capacity is where kind of the crunch is really happening, especially in these produce markets. We've seen it in Florida. We're starting to see it out in California, because I've seen. I don't know. Have you heard stories or seen some of the rates that they're talking about coming out of California?
Oh my God! Yes, insane. It was $12,000, I think, from California to New York.
I've heard stories of 17.
Yeah, I heard that, but I couldn't. I don't didn't know how accurate that one was. The
I've
12,
heard
I believe.
I've heard $17,000.
That's like that's cool. Okay, you can make money at 17. Now, ladies and gentlemen, if you're not in the business now and you think you're going to get in this and get $17,000 every week going from California to New York, that doesn't happen. You know,
No.
yeah, it's just like pig farming. When you pig farm, once every 4 years you get a bonanza, and the next 3 years and 48 or 50 weeks, it's going to be pretty slim pickings. It's the exact same thing.
Yeah, yeah, and so I don't know if we're kind of getting back to a more normal, much more normalized market where we're going to start to see the cycles that we're used to in trucking, because over the past 3 to 4 years, of course, this has been a complete anomaly as far as with the quote unquote freight recession,
No
depression,
freight
however you want
depression. No, it is. Rico, it has not been a recession. It's been
right,
a depression. The market, the best carriers out there, and I'm not talking about people that haul propane or something, the
right,
best in class carriers out there bled red, lots of red ink.
yep. And
So that's a
so
depression.
I think we're getting, like I said, we're starting to get somewhat of a baseline. And I think that once this baseline kind of gets established, maybe we'll start to see more of a traditional uh, market cycle that we're kind of accustomed to. But
Yeah.
we'll yet and still everything yet remains to be seen, because there's the landscape of transportation is definitely, we're kind of going through a real renaissance period where we have a lot of change coming about, and we have to adjust in everything, get acclimated to the new market that is presenting itself every day.
What would you, if you had to predict, okay, just any prediction you want of changes to our market, what would you think is the going to be the biggest one?
The biggest one, I think that the biggest one is definitely. I think we still going to have some real ramifications coming from uh, brokers starting to want to make sure that they're covering their backside when it comes to the litigation piece with with this
100%.
with the Montgomery
100%.
Group. So I think that with that being said, I think that, my opinion, I think that that's really going to make the industry a hell of a lot more safer. I think that now that a lot more people are going, since it's going to be real. One of the things that, if you really want to see people change or make adjustments, you have to start hitting them where it hurts, and where it hurts is in the pocket.
You
And then
got it.
once you start hitting them in the pocket, I think that people say, hey, okay, well, wait a minute. If I can avoid, or if I can do everything I can to mitigate potentially being hit in the pocket, well, I'm going to make sure I'm doing everything possible that I can. So it's going to, I think that some of that's going to push back down on us carriers, and making that some brokers, I think, may start requiring carriers to maybe have a little bit more insurance on the carrier part to kind of help offset some of the cost as well. So I think there's definitely going to be a change in landscape, and we have to be kind of prepared for what that's coming. And I think that what's going to have to happen is that shippers have to get, because you got a lot of shippers and you got a lot of people in shipping departments, even, and a lot of people in brokerage houses that have never experienced this side of the cycle. And what I mean by that, they've never experienced the side of the cycle where the carriers kind of can kind of call their shots. And
Yeah, and then we did have that during COVID, and then all of a sudden, when things got bad, the shippers wanted to get even with the people that own trucks, and they treated us like hell in a lot of cases. And now the chickens are coming home to roost.
yeah, so I think you got a lot of people that are in those shipping departments, it's shippers, and I think you got a lot of people in the brokerage departments that like I say, they may be starting out their career, they may not, and they've only experienced it from the shipping recession depression era, and now that this other side, this new horizon that we're starting to come across, this new horizon, uh, you're getting a lot of hand wringing on the other side.
I agree. I think you're right. I think we're going to see huge changes there. And the other thing that I foresee happening as a result of all this, I see an awful lot more um, running hub and spoke than we have. I don't think, especially with the younger generation, guys, uh, you know, older guys don't want to do this stuff. Run, and especially you take out the foreign-born drivers, your drivers from Southeast Asia. You take them out of the equation. Who is left to run freight from New York to California straight
The
as
only
a
other
team?
thing that I don't think that we've talked about, and I'm looking at the time, but I want to say this as we kind of get out of here. I don't know, and so I've heard this opinion that it may accelerate um, the introduction of autonomous trucks. You've got a lot of you've got I think it's Hirschbox that has
Yeah.
ordered 500 autonomous trucks. You've got McLean that has ordered that's jumped in as well and ordered so many trucks. And this is something maybe worthy of keeping our eye on, because initially I think that a lot of us said that we didn't really think that we would see in our lifetime that this would be, but I think that I don't know with all of this litigation that is going on, and I think that's still some litigation that could be definitely had with. I mean, you look at all the different videos with the Waymos and stuff, especially in Atlanta. Actually, Waymo has suspended service in Atlanta because Atlanta experienced some flash flooding, and a couple of their cars got caught in the flash flooding, and so. But that's something I think that is worth keeping our eye on. Just kind of keeping an eye on as far as how quickly are these, and how much of this is going to be a real factor with the autonomous trucks. I know you're still a little skeptical, Chuck, but
I'm not a little. I'm very skeptical, and I'm going to tell you, if I put my broker hat on here and you tell me, well, Crescent Carriers, I've got a truck for you, and there's no driver in it. I'll pick up your load in Atlanta, and we're going to send them down to Miami, but there's no driver in the truck. I'm going to say, Rico, thanks anyway, buddy, but get me a driver with a truck.
is that I wonder, would that be something that will have to be disclosed, or something if it's a going through a 3PL?
Well, I'm going to tell you, if I'm Trafix or any other broker, and your carrier, your Crescent Carriers, and you're going to put a truck on my load with no driver, I damn well want to know about it, make the decision whether I want to risk everything for that load with no driver on the truck. And maybe I need to run it up my customer or make a decision here. Do I want to risk this? Even if it's the most important load of the year, I'll get behind the wheel and drive the damn thing myself before I'm going to allow you to go and send a truck with no driver from Atlanta to Miami.
And there are a lot of people. There are a lot of the Hirschbach drivers and stuff like that on social media. There's a lot of flack and a lot of stuff that's coming back off of that deal. Some people are in support of it. Some people are saying, how badly is this going to affect our job going in the future?
I know Hirschbach, they were running them successfully. Not that many, not 500 of them, but a handful of them in Texas. And PACCAR made them shut it down and put drivers in because they didn't want the liability. So this is really a great question for some lawyers on this one, because I think the technology is great, but you're still going to have some sort of an operator there because of litigation. It's only a matter of time until something happens and somebody is killed.
Well, and now that they've been putting it all out there on social media about the successful, completely no driver in the truck trips that they've been having over the past couple of weeks. I don't know if you've seen those videos that are floating out there. So, and as they say, now you have a situation where that driver doesn't need a break. He's not tired. He's going.
It's like anything else. It doesn't matter what it is, whether it's
I'm just playing devil's advocate.
I know whether this is your phone or your vacuum cleaner. It doesn't matter, man. Equipment fails. We're in the trucking business. You're going down the road, boom. Something blows. It happens. You blow a turbo, whatever it is, doesn't matter. All of a sudden, something dynamites. And all of a sudden, you've got a real problem. You want a human being in there, not a computer.
Yeah. It's definitely going to be interesting times. It's something that I think that it's still worth us keeping an eye on, because, like I said, 500 trucks by Hirschbach, that's a significant investment.
It is. We have autonomous lawnmowers here at my farm. and now they're small. They're about 14 inches wide, and I'm always pulling them out of the pond or something. And this is on like, I realize it's not a truck, but I really wonder about this. I really do. I have my. I'm not saying it doesn't work, and I think it can work great in an enclosed rail yard or something, or a shipyard. I think that's where it should be. I just, my son and daughter-in-law recently were in the U.S. and they took a Waymo, and they said it was fun, but it was frustrating because it wouldn't make left turns, and it went about 15 miles an hour. So next time they're going to use, they said we'd use Uber or taxi. It's just not, it's fun to say you did it, but that's it.
Get the experience in.
Rico, I got to ask you one question before we get out of here.
Sure.
How do you feel if you're driving up Interstate 75 and you look over and a truck passes you and there's nobody in the driver's seat?
I'll tell you.
Question. How do you feel?
It definitely gives you a little bit of it. It would definitely make you raise your eyebrow. That's for sure. Might grip the steering wheel a little bit tighter, and I'm gonna make sure that I let that truck get on by me so I can keep an eye on it, so I can make sure that nothing surprises me coming up on it.
Exactly. I want to be 20 minutes behind them or 20 minutes ahead of them.
Riding side by side like that for sure. Did we? You get it? Okay, yeah. Now I don't want to be riding side by side with that.
No, either do I.
And so, well, Chuck, with that being said, we'll get ready to put a bow on it for this week. Is there anything else that you want to say before we get out of here, or anything you want to add to?
No, but you know what? I just want everybody to pay attention to safety. Really, we have to take this real serious because this is our livelihoods.
Yeah, and we gotta make sure that we are. I still see a lot of people on social media that are still talking about, being able to run with the Russians, as they say. That's not my terminology. That's the way that they dub it. But we have to take our jobs. We have to get back to. I even read some comments talking. Somebody was asking on social media, how could I defeat the front-facing camera? Because I've been driving for years, and I like to FaceTime and watch movies when I'm driving. And they actually, I swear, people are actually incriminating themselves on social media.
If you want to watch videos while you work, go get a job as a security guard.
Yeah, and it really surprised me, the comments up underneath that question, and I was proud to see a lot of drivers that are saying how professional you are. How professional, what a professional you are. Of course, you had a few in there talking about putting duct tape over it, this, that, and the other. But for the most part, a lot of drivers were talking about, and this is the thing that scares the hell out of when you're hiring drivers. That's because that's the type of thing that will open you up to. When we talk about all of this liability, that's exactly one of the things that a lot of brokers are using on that. They don't know what, if that driver decides that's what they want to do or how they want to conduct business. They can have all the qualifications in the world, but if that's the type of behavior that you're exhibiting behind the wheel,
it's driving a truck without a headphone on, talking to your best friend, without watching a video, holding the wheel there all day is dangerous enough.
Right.
You don't need to add extra danger to this job.
Absolutely.
It's not worth. Is it more important to watch a movie or go to prison?
And I think that's the thing that a lot of people are missing out on. They're thinking that a lot of times people just think that it won't never happen to me.
Yeah,
it'll never happen to me. And the thing about it is, the people that have had these horrendous crashes and accidents, I don't think that they intended on it to happen that way. It happened, and it happened now you have to deal with the consequences of it.
Yeah.
And those consequences far outweigh any other thing that you maybe think that you got going on, that you put people's lives at risk, you put people's lives in danger by your actions. And you have to be held accountable for that.
Exactly. Like life is dangerous enough without doing stupid shit. Check.
And so I think that if brokers and people can prove that they done everything in their power to try to make sure that they vetted a good carrier, I think that liability is going to remain squarely where it belongs, and that's with the carrier. I think that, like I said before, when it comes to the broker liability piece, I think that it's a case by case basis, and if the brokers are hiring and they knowingly hiring people they're putting solo guys on 1,000-mile next day deliveries, I definitely think that broker needs to be held accountable and responsible for that action.
100%, because he's part of the problem then.
Yep.
And we all have to do whatever we can to be safe. We owe it to each other because we all use the highways.
Absolutely. And so with that being said, we're going to get ready to put a bow on this one for this evening. This show has been pre-recorded. We recorded here on Monday, Memorial Day. So we want to say happy Memorial Day to everyone out there. But after that, we'll get ready to, Chuck, we'll let folks know how they can get a hold of you. And
if anybody needs me for anything, please send me an email with your phone number, chucksnow280@outlook.com, and I'd be more than happy to help anybody. And with that, Rico, I'll let you back in the hole for another week.
Well, with that being said, ladies and gentlemen, we want you guys to continue to stay safe out there, stay healthy, keep it in between the mustard and the mayonnaise. God willing, we'll talk at you same time, same place next week. God bless you and good night.
Catch you on the flip flop. God bless.